The gleaming spires of the Galactic Council headquarters pierced the violet skies of Centauri Prime, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the light of 3 moons. Ambassador Raj Patel stood at the base of the main tower, his heart pounding beneath his formal diplomatic uniform. After decades of searching, humanity had finally made contact with alien civilizations, and now he led Earth's first diplomatic mission to the seat of galactic power. Beside him, Dr. Isabella Rodriguez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, adjusted her atmospheric analyzer for the 1000th time. "The readings are consistent, Ambassador," she whispered. "The atmosphere here is primarily nitrogen and noble gases." "Exactly as they told us." Raj nodded, grateful for the protective fields surrounding their delegation. The aliens had been insistent about atmospheric protocols, though they hadn't explained why. He was about to learn the reason. The delegation was escorted into the grand chamber by tall, silvery beings called the Vexari. The chamber itself was breathtaking, a vast circular space with floating platforms occupied by representatives from hundreds of species. Some were vaguely humanoid, others defied description, but all wore similar atmospheric suits. High Counselor Zinare, a being of shifting colors and elegant tendrils, addressed the assembly. Their voice, translated through advanced technology, echoed through the chamber. "We gather today to welcome the representatives of Earth, a newly discovered civilization from the Orion Arm." Murmurs rippled through the assembly as holographic displays activated, showing detailed scans of Earth. Raj noticed immediate reactions, what appeared to be shock, fear, and fascination from various delegates. "Our initial atmospheric analysis of Earth has revealed something unprecedented," Zinare continued, their colors shifting to a deep purple. "Their planet's atmosphere contains approximately 21% free oxygen." The chamber erupted in chaos. Several delegates immediately backed away from the human delegation, while others leaned forward in fascination. Raj exchanged confused glances with Dr. Rodriguez. "For those unfamiliar with the implications," Zinare explained, their voice cutting through the chaos, "free oxygen is highly corrosive to most known forms of life. It causes rapid degradation of cellular structures and is considered a deadly toxin throughout known space. Yet these humans not only survive in such conditions, they require oxygen to live." Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overwhelming diplomatic protocol. "Excuse me, High Counselor, but are you saying that most species don't use oxygen for cellular respiration?" A being of crystalline structure, introduced as Science Director Keelax, responded. "Most species in the known galaxy use various forms of anaerobic processes for energy production. The concept of using a corrosive gas as part of biological processes is revolutionary." The implications hit Raj like a thunderbolt. Humanity, far from being primitive newcomers, had evolved in conditions that would be lethal to most galactic species. Their very breath would be considered a weapon. "This raises serious concerns," rumbled a massive being covered in metallic scales. "A species that thrives in toxic conditions, that breathes poison, how can we be certain they aren't a threat to galactic peace?" Raj stepped forward, his diplomatic training kicking in. "Members of the Council, we understand your concerns. But consider this, our evolution in such conditions has taught us adaptability, resilience, and respect for different forms of life. We've learned to thrive in conditions that others find impossible, yes, but this has also taught us the importance of protecting and preserving all forms of life, no matter how different from our own." His words seemed to resonate with some delegates, but others remained visibly nervous. High Counselor Zinare raised their tendrils in a gesture of quiet. "Ambassador Patel speaks wisdom. However, this revelation requires careful consideration. We must understand these humans better before proceeding with full diplomatic integration." As the session concluded, Raj could feel the weight of hundreds of alien gazes upon him. Their delegation had come seeking acceptance into the galactic community, but instead had discovered that they were far more alien than anyone had imagined. Earth wasn't just another world, it was what the aliens would call a death world, and its people were something unprecedented in the galaxy. Dr. Rodriguez touched his arm gently. This changes everything, doesn't it? Raj nodded slowly, watching as various delegates huddled in groups, clearly discussing the implications of humanity's unique nature. Yes, it does. We came here thinking we needed to prove we were advanced enough to join their community. Now we need to prove we aren't too dangerous to be allowed to join. As they were escorted from the chamber, Raj couldn't help but smile slightly. Humanity had always wondered if they would be seen as primitives by advanced alien civilizations. Instead, they had managed to shock the galaxy simply by being themselves. The real challenge was just beginning. The first diplomatic mission had turned into something far more complex than anyone had anticipated. As their shuttle departed the council headquarters, Raj watched the alien city through the viewport, its strange architecture glowing in the dying light of day. Humanity's journey to the stars had taken an unexpected turn, and he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The research facility on Centauri Prime's orbital station hummed with activity. 2 weeks had passed since the initial revelation about Earth's atmosphere, and Dr. Isabella Rodriguez found herself at the center of an unprecedented scientific collaboration. The vast laboratory, designed to accommodate multiple atmospheric environments, was filled with the galaxy's leading xenobiologists. Through the transparent barrier of her research chamber, Isabella watched as her alien colleague, Chief Researcher Nixus, manipulated a holographic display of human DNA. The Archean scientists' crystalline form refracted light in mesmerizing patterns as they worked. Extraordinary, Nixus's translated voice echoed through the communication system. Your mitochondrial structures are unlike anything we've encountered. The efficiency of oxygen processing is remarkable. Isabella adjusted her microscope, studying the comparative cellular samples before her. What I find fascinating is how your species developed such complex energy production without oxygen. Your chemical pathways are incredibly sophisticated. The door slid open, and Ambassador Raj entered, accompanied by Lieutenant Commander James Ortiz, their military attaché. The commander's presence had become necessary as more species expressed concerns about humanity's unique capabilities. Dr. Rodriguez, Raj called out, his voice tight with concern. We need to discuss the latest findings. The Galactic Council is demanding a full report. Isabella nodded to Nixus and stepped into the atmospheric exchange chamber, waiting as the air composition shifted to match the station's standard environment. Once through, she joined the others in the conference room. The Vexery Defense Ministry has issued a formal inquiry, Ortiz began, his weathered face grave. They're particularly interested in our ability to survive in environments they consider hostile. There's talk of classifying humans as a potential biological hazard. Isabella pulled up her research data on the room's holographic display. That's ridiculous. Yes, our oxygen adaptation is unique, but it's not a weapon. In fact, our research is revealing something extraordinary. She gestured to a complex molecular diagram. We've discovered that human cellular repair mechanisms are far more advanced than anyone expected. Our bodies don't just tolerate oxygen, they've evolved to harness its reactive properties for enhanced healing and adaptation. That's exactly what concerns them, Raj replied, running a hand through his graying hair. A species that converts what they consider a deadly toxin into a survival advantage? It challenges everything they thought they knew about biological evolution. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent message from Nixus. The Archean scientist's usually melodic voice carried an edge of excitement. Dr. Rodriguez, you must see this immediately. We've made a breakthrough. They rushed back to the laboratory, where Nixus had constructed a complex simulation of human cellular adaptation. The holographic display showed human cells responding to various environmental stressors, demonstrating unprecedented levels of adaptability. Your species didn't just evolve to survive oxygen, Nixus explained, their crystalline form pulsing with excitement. You evolved to thrive on it. The very thing that should have prevented life from developing on Earth became your greatest strength. It's not just your respiratory system, your entire cellular structure, your DNA itself, has been shaped by this adaptation. Isabella stared at the data, her mind racing with implications. This could revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary biology across the galaxy. Think of the medical applications alone. We could help species adapt to environments they never thought possible. Or create weapons they never imagined, a new voice interrupted. Ambassador Krell of the Vexery Defense Ministry stood in the doorway, their silvery form rigid with concern. Your species' ability to adapt and survive in lethal environments could pose a significant threat to galactic security. Raj stepped forward, his diplomatic training evident in his measured response. Ambassador Krell, with respect, you're looking at this the wrong way. Our adaptation to oxygen doesn't make us a threat, it makes us unique collaborators. We've learned to transform what you consider deadly into something life-sustaining. Imagine what we could achieve by working together. That's precisely what concerns us, Krell replied coldly. The potential applications of your biology are too dangerous to ignore. The Defense Ministry is recommending immediate restrictions on human movement throughout Council space. The tension in the room was palpable. Isabella watched as years of potential scientific advancement threatened to dissolve into fear and paranoia. She turned to Nixus, seeing her own concern reflected in the Arxian's crystalline surface. Ambassador, Isabella spoke up, her voice firm. Before you make any recommendations, let me show you something. She pulled up the latest research data. We've discovered that human cellular adaptation might hold the key to helping other species survive in diverse environments. We're not a threat, we're an opportunity for growth and understanding. The data scrolled across the holographic displays, complex molecular structures, adaptation mechanisms, potential applications for medical advancement. Krell studied the information, their silver form shifting slightly. Interesting, they finally said. But it doesn't change the fundamental concern. A species that can adapt to lethal environments poses inherent risks. Or inherent possibilities, Nixus interjected, surprising everyone. My preliminary analysis suggests that understanding human adaptation could revolutionize our approach to space exploration, colonization, and medical treatment. Are we going to let fear override the potential for extraordinary advancement? As the debate continued, Isabella caught Raja's eye. They both knew that this was just the beginning. The revelation of humanity's unique biology had opened a door that couldn't be closed. The question now was whether it would lead to breakthrough or breakdown in galactic relations. Outside the research station's viewport, the 3 moons of Centauri Prime cast their gentle light across the facility. Somewhere in that vast expanse of space, humanity's future hung in the balance, shaped by the very air they breathed. The strategic defense chamber aboard the Galactic Council's military station pulsed with tense energy. Holograms of Earth's military capabilities filled the space, casting an eerie blue glow across the assembled faces of the Coalition Defense Board. Lieutenant Commander James Ortiz stood at attention, acutely aware that humanity's future might hinge on this presentation. Admiral Vexthor of the Meridian Fleet, a towering figure with iridescent scales, leaned forward in his gravity chair. So, Commander, you're telling us that your species regularly trains in environments we consider lethal? Without protective equipment? Affirmative, Admiral, Ortiz replied, bringing up footage of Earth's Special Forces training. Our military personnel routinely operate in extreme conditions, high-altitude mountains, underwater depths, desert heat. Our natural adaptation to oxygen allows us to push physiological boundaries that other species might find challenging. Fleet Commander Zarake, representing the Vexery military, hissed softly. And your weapons? They utilize this oxygen adaptation as well? Ortiz hesitated, knowing this was dangerous territory. We have developed technologies that leverage our understanding of atmospheric chemistry, yes. But our primary focus has always been defense and exploration, not aggression. The chamber erupted in murmurs as new data scrolled across the displays: human military achievements, adaptation capabilities, and technological innovations. The implications were clear. Humanity's evolution on a death world had created warriors unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. In the observation gallery above, Ambassador Raj and Dr. Rodriguez watched the proceedings with growing concern. They were joined by General Lasara of the Arxian Defense Force, whose crystalline form seemed to absorb the light around her. "Your species presents an interesting paradox, Ambassador," Lasara commented, her translated voice carrying a hint of admiration. "You've developed remarkable defensive capabilities, yet your diplomatic records show a strong preference for peaceful resolution." Before Raj could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency lights pulsed as Admiral Vexthor received an urgent communication. His scales shifted to a dark purple as he addressed the chamber. "We have a situation in the Proxima sector," he announced grimly. "The Drachnid separatists have launched an attack on a research outpost. They're using experimental weapons designed to weaponize atmospheric conditions. Current defenses are ineffective." All eyes turned to the human delegation. Commander Ortiz stepped forward, his military training taking over. "Admiral, if I may, our forces are specifically trained to operate in hostile atmospheric conditions. We could assist." A tense silence fell over the chamber. The implications were clear: this was both an opportunity and a test. Humanity could prove itself either a valuable ally or confirm the fears of those who saw them as a threat. Admiral Vexthor's scales rippled with decision. "Commander Ortiz, can your rapid response team deploy immediately?" "Yes, sir. The USS Hyperion is in orbit with a full complement of atmospheric specialists and combat teams." "Then you have authorization. Show us what humans can do." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Ortiz coordinated with the Hyperion while Raj worked diplomatic channels to clear their intervention. Dr. Rodriguez provided crucial data about the atmospheric weapons being employed. The operation itself was a testament to human adaptability. While other species' forces were stalled by the Drachnid's atmospheric weapons, the human teams moved efficiently through the contaminated zones. Their natural resistance to extreme conditions, combined with generations of training in harsh environments, proved decisive. From the command center, the Coalition Defense Board watched in amazement as human soldiers neutralized the threat with minimal casualties. Their ability to function in conditions that would incapacitate most species turned what could have been a devastating attack into a controlled situation. "Remarkable," General Lasara observed, her crystalline form pulsing with interest. "They're not just surviving in there, they're thriving. Their tactical advantages in hostile environments are extraordinary." Fleet Commander Zarak's earlier suspicion had transformed into calculating interest. "Perhaps we've been looking at this wrong. Their adaptations don't make them a threat, they make them invaluable allies." The crisis was resolved within 6 hours. As the human teams completed their cleanup operation, Ambassador Raj noticed a shift in the room's atmosphere. The fear and suspicion that had dominated earlier discussions were being replaced by something else: respect. Admiral Vexthor addressed the chamber once the all-clear was given. "Today's events have demonstrated something significant. The very adaptations we feared might make humans dangerous have proven to be a powerful asset for galactic security. I am recommending immediate integration of human forces into coalition defense planning." Commander Ortiz stood at attention, his expression professional but proud. "The Earth Defense Force stands ready to cooperate with coalition forces, Admiral. We believe our unique capabilities can complement existing defense strategies." As the military leaders began discussing integration protocols, Dr. Rodriguez leaned close to Raj. "This changes the narrative," she whispered. "Instead of being seen as potential threats, we're now valuable allies." Raj nodded, watching as species that had earlier recoiled from human presence now engaged eagerly with Ortiz and his team. Yes, but we need to be careful. Being seen as valuable military assets comes with its own risks. The station's vast viewport showed the glittering expanse of space, where somewhere the Hyperion's crews were already being hailed as heroes. Humanity had passed a crucial test, but their journey was far from over. They had proven their worth in crisis, now they needed to prove they could be trusted with the power that came with it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council cast long shadows across the Grand Chamber. 3 months after the Proxima incident, the political landscape had shifted dramatically. Ambassador Raj Patel stood before the Assembly, facing what could be humanity's greatest diplomatic crisis since first contact. "The evidence is undeniable," proclaimed Delegate Exorthen of the Meridian Consortium, their holographic form flickering with agitation. "The humans have been expanding their military presence throughout coalition space at an unprecedented rate. Their biological advantages make them nearly unstoppable in environments we consider hostile. They must be contained." Raj watched as support gathered for Exorthen's motion. The very capabilities that had made humans valuable allies were now being used to paint them as an existential threat. The success of their military interventions had bred fear among some council members. "We propose immediate sanctions," Exorthen continued. "Restrictions on human movement through coalition space, mandatory atmospheric barriers in all shared facilities, and suspension of joint research projects." Dr. Rodriguez, seated in the human delegation section, clutched her data pad tightly. 3 months of groundbreaking research threatened to evaporate in a wave of paranoia. Commander Ortiz, standing at the chamber's periphery, maintained his military bearing despite the tension evident in his jaw. Then something unexpected happened. Chief Researcher Nixus, their crystalline form now bearing traces of human DNA integration from their joint research, glided to the chamber's center. "Esteemed Council, before you vote on these measures, you must understand what you're rejecting." The holographic displays around the chamber activated, showing the results of their recent breakthrough. Human adaptation hasn't just taught us about survival in hostile environments. It's shown us how to evolve. Their unique relationship with oxygen has led to developments in medical science that could benefit all species. Images appeared of successful trials, vexillary explorers using modified human cellular structures to survive in previously uninhabitable environments, Archean colonies protecting themselves from atmospheric degradation using human-inspired adaptations. Are we going to let fear destroy the greatest opportunity for advancement our civilization has encountered? Nixus challenged. But before the council could respond, emergency alerts blared through the chamber. Admiral Vexthor burst into the session, his scales dark with urgency. "We have a Level 1 crisis," he announced. "The Drachnid separatists have launched a full-scale attack on the Centauri core. They've weaponized their atmospheric technology. Multiple habitation domes are failing. Millions of lives are at risk." The chamber erupted in chaos. Centauri Prime was the heart of coalition space, home to billions of beings from hundreds of species. An atmospheric attack could be catastrophic. Commander Ortiz stepped forward. "Admiral, the Hyperion and 3 other Earth vessels are in position to respond. We've developed countermeasures based on our previous encounter with Drachnid weapons." "Absolutely not." Exorthen interrupted. "We cannot allow human forces such access to our core systems. Their intervention in Proxima was one thing, but this. Would you rather watch billions die?" Raj's voice cut through the chaos. "You fear our abilities? Then let us prove they exist to protect, not threaten. Let us show you why evolution chose to make us this way." Admiral Vexthor's scales shifted in decision. "The Earth fleet has authorization to engage. All coalition forces will provide support as needed." What followed was unprecedented in coalition history. Human ships, designed to operate in conditions other species found impossible, penetrated the Drachnid attack zones. Teams of Earth specialists, their bodies naturally resistant to atmospheric weapons, worked tirelessly to repair failing habitation domes. From the Council chamber, now transformed into an emergency command center, the Assembly watched as humanity demonstrated the full extent of their capabilities. Not in conquest or aggression, but in protection and preservation of life. Dr. Rodriguez coordinated with medical teams, using their research to help other species survive in compromised environments. Commander Ortiz led the military response, turning humanity's unique adaptations into a shield for those who feared them. Hours stretched into days. The human forces worked without rest, their natural endurance another reminder of their evolution on a death world. But they weren't fighting alone. Inspired by their example, other species began adapting their own approaches, working alongside the humans they had feared. When the crisis finally ended, the cost was counted not in lives lost, but in lives saved. The Drachnid attack had failed, their weapons rendered ineffective by the combined efforts of humanity and their coalition allies. In the aftermath, Raj stood again before the Council, but the atmosphere had changed. Exorthan's motion for sanctions lay forgotten, replaced by a new understanding. "We feared your strength," Admiral Vexthor addressed the Assembly, "because we didn't understand its purpose. Evolution shaped humanity in the crucible of what we called a death world, not to create conquerors, but guardians. They are not a threat to our civilization, they are its defenders." The vote that followed was unanimous. Humanity would not be sanctioned or contained. Instead, they would be fully integrated into coalition society, their unique abilities recognized as a gift to be celebrated, not a weapon to be feared. As the session concluded, Raj caught Dr. Rodriguez's eye. They both knew that this wasn't the end of their journey, but perhaps it was the end of being seen as outsiders. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not despite their differences, but because of them. 1 year after the Centauri crisis, the observation deck of Unity Station offered a breathtaking view of an unprecedented gathering. Ships from every coalition species hung in elegant formation around the massive new installation, a joint project that would have been impossible just 12 months ago. Ambassador Raj Patel stood at the viewport, his reflection overlaid against the spectacular celestial display. Behind him, the station's main conference chamber buzzed with activity as representatives from across the galaxy prepared for the signing of the historic Unity Accords. "Quite a change from our first council meeting," Lieutenant Commander Ortiz remarked, joining him at the window. The military officer had traded his tactical uniform for formal diplomatic attire, reflecting humanity's evolving role in coalition space. "Sometimes it takes a crisis to bring clarity," Raj replied, watching as a human vessel effortlessly maneuvered alongside an Arxian crystal ship. "We spent so long worried about proving ourselves worthy of joining their civilization. We never considered that perhaps we had something unique to offer." Dr. Rodriguez approached, accompanied by Chief Researcher Nixis. The human scientist and her Arxian colleague had become the face of successful interspecies collaboration. Their joint research had revolutionized the coalition's approach to environmental adaptation and medical treatment. The latest results from the adaptation initiative are exceeding all expectations, Isabella announced, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've successfully helped 3 more species develop modified respiratory systems based on human oxygen processing. The applications for space exploration alone are revolutionary." Nixis's crystalline form pulsed with corresponding enthusiasm. "More importantly, we've proven that biological differences can be bridges rather than barriers. The very adaptations that made humans seem dangerous now offer hope to countless species." Their conversation was interrupted by the soft chime announcing the start of the ceremony. The observation deck began filling with delegates from across coalition space. The fear and suspicion that had once characterized these gatherings had been replaced by genuine curiosity and respect. High Counselor Zinare, their colors shifting in formal patterns, took the central platform. Today marks not just the signing of an accord, but the recognition of a fundamental truth. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, creates diversity for a purpose. The chamber's holographic displays activated, showing scenes from the past year, human teams working alongside coalition forces to protect vulnerable colonies, joint research projects yielding breakthrough after breakthrough, new exploration initiatives made possible by humanity's unique capabilities. When we first discovered humans, Zinare continued, we saw them as anomalies. Their evolution on what we called a death world seemed to make them dangerous, unpredictable. We failed to understand that their adaptation to hostile conditions wasn't a threat, but a gift, not just to them, but to all sentient life. Admiral Vexthor, his scales gleaming with ceremonial markings, stepped forward. The Unity Accords recognize humanity not just as members of the coalition, but as essential partners in our shared future. Their unique biology, far from being a source of fear, has become a catalyst for advancement beyond anything we imagined. Raj approached the platform, carrying the formal documentation of Earth's commitment to the Accords. As he walked, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From feared outsiders to trusted allies, from biological anomalies to evolutionary pioneers. On behalf of Earth and humanity, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, we accept this partnership with profound gratitude and responsibility. Our evolution in challenging conditions taught us not just survival, but adaptation, innovation, and most importantly, the strength that comes from diversity. The signing ceremony proceeded with representatives from each coalition species adding their marks to the accord. Each signature represented not just political agreement, but a deeper understanding of how different evolutionary paths could converge for the greater good. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Rodriguez activated one final holographic display, a real-time image of Earth, its oxygen-rich atmosphere now seen not as a barrier, but as a symbol of life's incredible adaptability. We've begun a new chapter, she announced, not just in human history, but in the story of all sentient life. Our differences don't divide us, they complete us. Each species brings unique strengths, perspectives, and adaptations. Together, we're stronger than we could ever be alone. The observation deck erupted in celebration as the accords became official. Species that once would have avoided contact now mingled freely, sharing ideas and aspirations for the future they would build together. Raj found himself back at the viewport, watching as the assembled ships began a ceremonial light display. Each vessel contributed its unique energy signature, creating a stunning aurora that symbolized their unity in diversity. So, Commander Ortiz joined him, what's next for humanity's ambassador to the stars? Raj smiled, watching as a group of young officers, human and alien alike, excitedly discussed plans for joint exploration missions. Now comes the real work. We've proven we can overcome our differences. The challenge now is to build something greater than any of us could achieve alone. Beyond the viewport, the infinite expanse of space beckoned. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not by conquering or submitting, but by showing that true strength lies in adaptation, cooperation, and the courage to embrace difference as an opportunity rather than a threat. The story of Earth's death world evolution had transformed from a source of fear into an inspiration. It stood as a testament to life's incredible ability to not just survive, but thrive in the face of adversity, and to share that strength with others. As the celebration continued around him, Raj knew that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. The next chapter in humanity's journey among the stars was just starting, and its possibilities were as limitless as space itself.